Section 16 of The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy by Hannah Glasse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 6 of Soups and Broths. To make strong broth for soup or gravy. Take a shin of beef, a knuckle of veal, and a scrag of mutton. Put them in 5 gallons of water. Then let it boil up. Skim it clean and season it with 6 large onions, 4 good leeks, 4 heads of celery, 2 carrots, 2 turnips, a bundle of sweet herbs, 6 cloves, a dozen corns of allspice, and some salt. Skim it very clean and let it stew gently for 6 hours. Then strain it off and put it by for use. When you want very strong gravy, take a slice of bacon, lay it in a stew pan, take a pound of beef, cut it thin, lay it on the bacon, slice a good piece of carrot in, an onion sliced, a good crust of bread, a few sweet herbs, a little mace, cloves, nutmeg and whole pepper, an anchovy. Cover it and set it on a slow fire 5 or 6 minutes, and pour in a quart of the above gravy. Cover it close and let it boil softly till half is wasted. This will be a rich, high brown sauce for fish, fowl or ragout. Gravy for white sauce. Take a pound of any part of the veal, cut it into small pieces, boil it in a quart of water with an onion, a blade of mace, 2 cloves and a few whole peppercorns. Boil it till it is as rich as you would have it. Gravy for turkey, fowl or ragout. Take a pound of lean beef, cut and hack it well, then flour it well, put a piece of butter as big as a hen's egg in a stew pan. When it is melted, put in your beef, fry it on all sides a little brown, then pour in 3 pints of boiling water and a bundle of sweet herbs, 2 or 3 blades of mace, 3 or 4 cloves, 12 whole peppercorns, a little bit of carrot, a little piece of crust of bread toasted brown. Cover it close and let it boil till there is about a pint or less. Season it with salt and strain it off. Gravy for a fowl when you have no meat nor gravy ready. Take the neck, liver and gizzard. Boil them in half a pint of water with a little piece of bread toasted brown, a little pepper and salt, and a little bit of thyme. Let them boil till there is about a quarter of a pint, then pour in half a glass of red wine. Boil it and strain it, then bruise the liver well in and strain it again. Thicken it with a little piece of butter rolled in flour, and it will be very good. An ox's kidney makes good gravy. Cut all to pieces and boiled with spice, etc., as in the foregoing receipts. You have a receipt in the beginning of the book in the preface for gravies. Vermicelli soup. Take 3 quarts of the broth and 1 of the gravy mixed together, a quarter of a pound of vermicelli, blanched in 2 quarts of water. Put it into the soup, boil it up for 10 minutes and season with salt if it wants any. Put it in your tureen with a crust of French roll baked. Macaroni soup. Take 3 quarts of the strong broth and 1 of the gravy mixed together. Take half a pound of small pipe macaroni and boil it in 3 quarts of water with a little butter in it till it is tender. Then strain it through a sieve, cut it in pieces of about 2 inches long, put it in your soup and boil it up for 10 minutes, and then send it to table in a tureen with the crust of a French roll toasted. Soup cressou. Take a pound of lean ham and cut it into small bits and put at the bottom of a stew pan. Then cut a French roll and put over the ham. Take 2 dozen heads of celery cut small, 6 onions, 2 turnips, 1 carrot cut and washed very clean, 6 cloves, 4 blades of mace, 2 handfuls of watercresses. Put them all into the stew pan with a pint of good broth. Cover them close and sweat it gently for 20 minutes. Then fill it up with veal broth and stew it 4 hours. Rub it through a fine sieve or cloth. Put it in your pan again. Season it with salt and a little cayenne pepper. Give it a simmer up and send it to table hot, with some French roll toasted hard in it. Boil a handful of cresses till tender, in water, and put in over the bread. To make mutton or veal gravy. Cut and hack your veal well. Set it on the fire with water, sweet herbs, mace and pepper. Let it boil till it is as good as you would have it. Then strain it off. Your fine cooks always, if they can, chop a partridge or two and put into gravies. To make a strong fish gravy. Take 2 or 3 eels, or any fish you have, skin or scale them, gut them and wash them from grit. Cut them into little pieces. Put them into a saucepan, cover them with water, a little crust of bread toasted brown, a blade or 2 of mace and some whole pepper, a few sweet herbs and a very little bit of lemon peel. Let it boil till it is rich and good. Then have ready a piece of butter according to your gravy. If a pint, as big as a walnut. Melt it in the saucepan, then shake in a little flour and toss it about till it is brown, and then strain in the gravy to it. Let it boil a few minutes and it will be good. To make plum porridge for Christmas. Take a leg and shin of beef, put them into 8 gallons of water and boil them till they are very tender, and when the broth is strong, strain it out. Wipe the pot and put in the broth again. Then slice 6 penny loaves thin, cut off the top and bottom, put some of the liquor to it, cover it up and let it stand a quarter of an hour. Boil it and strain it, and then put it into your pot. Let it boil a quarter of an hour, then put in 5 pounds of currants, clean washed and picked. Let them boil a little, and put in 5 pounds of raisins of the sun, stoned, and 2 pounds of prunes, and let them boil till they swell. Then put in 3/4 of an ounce of mace, 1/2 an ounce of cloves, 2 nutmegs, all of them beat fine, and mix it with a little liquor cold, and put them in a very little while, and take off the pot. Then put in 3 pounds of sugar, a little salt, a quart of sack, a quart of claret, and the juice of 2 or 3 lemons. You may thicken with sago instead of bread, if you please. Pour them into earthen pans, and keep them for use. To make strong broth to keep for use. Take part of a leg of beef and the scrag end of a neck of mutton. Break the bones in pieces and put to it as much water as will cover it and a little salt. And when it boils, skim it clean and put into it a whole onion stuck with cloves, a bunch of sweet herbs, some pepper and a nutmeg quartered. Let these boil till the meat is boiled in pieces and the strength boiled out of it. Strain it out and keep it for use. A crawfish soup. Take a gallon of water and set it a-boiling. Put in it a bunch of sweet herbs, 3 or 4 blades of mace, an onion stuck with cloves, pepper and salt. Then have about 200 crawfish. Save about 20, then pick the rest from the shells. Save the tails whole. Beat the body and shells in a mortar with a pint of peas, green or dry, first boiled tender in fair water. Put your boiling water to it and strain it boiling hot through a cloth till you have all the goodness out of it. Set it over a slow fire or stew hole. Have ready a French roll cut very thin, and let it be very dry. Put it to your soup. Let it stew till half is wasted, Then put a piece of butter as big as an egg into a saucepan. Let it simmer till it has done making a noise. Shake in 2 teaspoonfuls of flour, stirring it about, and an onion. Put in the tails of the fish. Give them a shake round. Put to them a pint of good gravy. Let it boil 4 or 5 minutes softly. Take out the onion, and put to it a pint of the soup. Stir it well together. Bruise the live spawn of a hen lobster, and put it all together, and let it simmer very softly 1/4 of an hour. Fry a French roll very nice and brown, and the 20 crawfish. Pour your soup into the dish, and lay the roll in the middle, and the crawfish round the dish. Fine cooks boil a brace of carp and tench, and maybe a lobster or 2, and many more rich things to make a crawfish soup, but the above is full as good and wants no addition. To make soup santé or gravy soup. Take 6 good rashers of lean ham, put it in the bottom of a stew pan, then put over it 3 pounds of lean beef, and over the beef 3 pounds of lean veal, 6 onions cut in slices, 2 carrots and 2 turnips sliced, 2 heads of celery and a bundle of sweet herbs, 6 cloves and 2 blades of mace. Put a little water at the bottom. Draw it very gently till it sticks. Then put in a gallon of boiling water. Let it stew for 2 hours. Season with salt and strain it off. Then have ready a carrot cut in small slices of 2 inches long and about as thick as a goose quill, a turnip, 2 heads of leeks, 2 heads of celery, 2 heads of endive cut across, 2 cabbage lettuces cut across, a very little sorrel and chervil. Put them in a stew pan and sweat them for 15 minutes gently. Then put them in your soup, boil it up gently for 10 minutes. Put it in your tureen with a crust of French roll. Note well, you may boil the herbs in 2 quarts of water for 10 minutes if you like them best so. Your soup will be the clearer, or you may take 1 quart of the broth from page 125 and 1 of the fowling gravy and boil the herbs that are cut fine in it for 1/4 of an hour. A green peas soup. Take a knuckle of veal and 1 pound of lean ham, cut them in thin slices, lay the ham at the bottom of a soup pot, the veal upon the ham. Then cut 6 onions in slices and put on 2 or 3 turnips, 2 carrots, 3 heads of celery cut small, a little thyme, 4 cloves and 4 blades of mace. Put a little water at the bottom, cover the pot close and draw it gently, but do not let it stick. Then put in 6 quarts of boiling water. Let it stew gently for 4 hours and skim it well. Take 2 quarts of green peas and stew them in some of the broth till tender. Then strain them off and put them in a marble mortar and beat them fine. Put the liquor in and mix them up. If you have no mortar, you must bruise them in the best manner you can. Take a tammy or a fine cloth and rub them through till you have rubbed all the pulp out, and then put your soup in a clean pot with half a pint of spinach juice and boil it up for 15 minutes. Season with salt and a little pepper. If your soup is not thick enough, take the crumb of a French roll and boil it in a little of the soup. Beat it in the mortar and rub it through your tammy or cloth, then put it in your soup and boil it up. Then put it in your tureen with dice of bread toasted very hard. Another way to make green peas soup. Take a gallon of water, make it boil. Then put in 6 onions, 4 turnips, 2 carrots and 2 heads of celery cut in slices, 4 cloves, 4 blades of mace, 4 cabbage lettuces cut small. Stew them for an hour. Then strain it off and put in 2 quarts of old green peas and boil them in the liquor till tender. Then beat or bruise them and mix them up with the broth, and rub them through a tammy or cloth, and put it in a clean pot with half a pint of spinach juice, and boil it up 15 minutes. Season with pepper and salt to your liking. Then put your soup in your tureen with small dices of bread toasted very hard. A peas soup for winter. Take about 4 pounds of lean beef, cut it in small pieces, about a pound of lean bacon or pickled pork. Set it on the fire with 2 gallons of water, let it boil and skim it well. Then put in 6 onions, 2 turnips, 1 carrot and 4 heads of celery cut small, and put in a quart of split peas. Boil it gently for 3 hours. Then strain them through a sieve and rub the peas well through. Then put your soup in a clean pot and put in some dried mint rubbed very fine to powder. Cut the white of 4 heads of celery and 2 turnips in dices, and boil them in a quart of water for 15 minutes. Then strain them off and put them in your soup. Take about a dozen small rashers of bacon fried and put them into your soup. Season with pepper and salt to your liking. Boil it up for 15 minutes. Then put it in your tureen with dices of bread fried very crisp. Another way to make it. When you boil a leg of pork or a good piece of beef, save the liquor. When it is cold, take off the fat. The next day, boil a leg of mutton, save the liquor, and when it is cold, take off the fat. Set it on the fire with 2 quarts of peas. Let them boil till they are tender, then put in the pork or beef liquor, with the ingredients as above, and let it boil till it is as thick as you would have it, allowing for the boiling again. Then strain it off, and add the ingredients as above. You may make your soup of veal or mutton gravy if you please, that is according to your fancy. A chestnut soup. Take 1/2 of chestnuts, pick them, put them in an earthen pan and set them in the oven half an hour, or roast them gently over a slow fire, but take care they do not burn. Then peel them and set them to stew in a quart of good beef, veal or mutton broth till they are quite tender. In the meantime, take a piece or slice of ham or bacon, a pound of veal, a pigeon beat to pieces, a bundle of sweet herbs, an onion, a little pepper and mace, and a piece of carrot. Lay the bacon at the bottom of a stew pan, and lay the meat and ingredients at top. Set it over a slow fire till it begins to stick to the pan. Then put in a crust of bread and pour in 2 quarts of broth. Let it boil softly till 1/3 is wasted. Then strain it off and add it to the chestnuts. Season it with salt and let it boil till it is well tasted. Stew 2 pigeons in it and fry a French roll crisp. Lay the roll in the middle of the dish and the pigeons on each side. Pour in the soup and send it away hot. Hare soup. Take and cut a large hare into pieces, and put it into an earthen mug, with 3 blades of mace, 2 large onions, a little salt, a red herring, 6 large morels, a pint of red wine, and 3 quarts of water. Bake it 3 hours in a quick oven, and then strain it into a stew pan. Have ready boiled 4 ounces of French barley, and put in. Just scald the liver and rub it through a sieve with a wooden spoon. Put it into the soup, set it over the fire, and keep it stirring, but it must not boil. Send it up with crisp bread in it. Soup à la reine. Take a pound of lean ham and cut it small, and put it at the bottom of a soup pot. Cut a knuckle of veal into pieces and put in, and an old fowl cut in pieces. Put 3 blades of mace, 4 onions, 6 heads of celery, 2 turnips, 1 carrot, a bundle of sweet herbs washed clean. Put in half a pint of water and cover it close, and sweat it gently for half an hour. But be careful it don't burn, for that will spoil it. Then pour in boiling water enough to cover it, and let it stew till all the goodness is out. Then strain it into a clean pan, and let it stand half an hour to settle. Then skim it well, and pour it off the settlings into a clean pan. Boil half a pint of cream, and pour upon the crumbs of a halfpenny roll, and let it soak well. Take half a pound of almonds, blanch them, and beat them in a marble mortar as fine as you can, putting now and then a little cream to keep them from oiling. Take the yolks of 6 hard eggs, and the roll and cream, and put to the almonds, and beat them up together in your broth. Rub it through a fine hair sieve or cloth till all the goodness is rubbed through, and put it in a stew pan. Keep stirring it till it boils, and skim off the froth as it rises. Season with salt, and then pour it into your tureen, with 3 slices of French roll, crisped before the fire. To make mutton broth. Take a neck of mutton about 6 pounds, cut it into 2, boil the scrag in a gallon of water, skim it well, then put in a little bundle of sweet herbs, an onion, and a good crust of bread. Let it boil an hour, then put in the other part of the mutton, a turnip or 2, some dried marigolds, a few chives chopped fine, a little parsley chopped small. Then put these in about a quarter of an hour before your broth is enough. Season it with salt, or you may put in a quarter of a pound of barley or rice at first. Some love it thickened with oatmeal, and some with bread, and some love it seasoned with mace instead of sweet herbs and onion. All this is fancy and different palates. If you boil turnips for sauce, do not boil all in the pot. It makes the broth too strong of them, but boil them in a saucepan. Beef broth. Take a leg of beef, crack the bone in 2 or 3 parts, wash it clean, put it into a pot with a gallon of water, skim it well, then put in 2 or 3 blades of mace, a little bundle of parsley, and a good crust of bread. Let it boil till the beef is quite tender and the sinews. Toast some bread and cut it in dice and put it in your tureen. Lay in the meat and pour the soup in. To make Scotch barley broth. Take a leg of beef, chop it all to pieces, boil it in 3 gallons of water with a piece of carrot and a crust of bread till it is half boiled away. Then strain it off and put it into the pot again with half a pound of barley, 4 or 5 heads of celery washed clean and cut small, a large onion, a bundle of sweet herbs, a little parsley chopped small, and a few marigolds. Let this boil an hour. Take a cock or a large fowl, clean picked and washed, and put into the pot. Boil it till the broth is quite good, then season with salt, and send it to table, with the fowl in the middle. This broth is very good without the fowl. Take out the onion and sweet herbs before you send it to table. Some make this broth with a sheep's head instead of a leg of beef, and it is very good. But you must chop the head all to pieces. The thick flank, about 6 pounds to 6 quarts of water, makes good broth. Then put the barley in with the meat. First skim it well, boil it an hour very softly, then put in the above ingredients, with turnips and carrots clean scraped and pared and cut in little pieces. Boil all together softly till the broth is very good. Then season it with salt and send it to table with the beef in the middle, turnips and carrots round, and pour the broth over all. To make hodge-podge. Take a piece of beef, fat and lean together, about a pound of veal, a pound of scrag of mutton, cut all into little pieces, Set it on the fire with 2 quarts of water, an ounce of barley, an onion, a little bundle of sweet herbs, 3 or 4 heads of celery washed clean and cut small, a little mace, 2 or 3 cloves, some whole pepper, tied all in a muslin rag, and put to the meat 3 turnips pared and cut in 2, a large carrot scraped clean and cut in 6 pieces, a little lettuce cut small. Put all in the pot and cover it close. Let it stew very softly over a slow fire 5 or 6 hours. Take out the spice, sweet herbs and onion, and pour all into a soup dish and send it to table. First season it with salt. Half a pint of green peas, when it is the season for them, is very good. If you let this boil fast, it will waste too much. Therefore, you cannot do it too slow, if it does but simmer. All other stews you have in the foregoing chapter, and soups in the chapter of Lent. Hodge-podge of mutton. Take a neck of mutton of about 6 pounds, cut about 2 pounds of the best end whole, cut the rest into chops, put them into a stew pan or little pot. Put in 2 large onions whole, 2 heads of celery, 4 turnips whole, a carrot cut in pieces, a small Savoy or cabbage, all washed clean. Stew it gently till you have drawn all the gravy out, but be sure it don't burn. Put in about 3 quarts of boiling water, and let it stew gently for 3 hours. Put in a spoonful of browning and season it with salt. Skim off all the fat clean. Put your meat in a soup dish and put the herbs over, and pour the soup over all. Garnish with toasted sippets. You put only the best end and leave out the chops. Partridge soup. Take 2 large old partridges, skin them and cut them into pieces with 3 or 4 slices of ham, a little celery, and 3 large onions cut in slices. Fry them in butter till they are brown. Be sure not to burn them. Then put them to 3 quarts of boiling water with a few peppercorns and a little salt. Stew it very gently for 2 hours, then strain it and put some stewed celery and fried bread. Serve it up hot in a tureen. To make portable soup. Take 2 legs of beef of about 50 pounds weight. Take off all the skin and fat as well as you can. Then take all the meat and sinews clean from the bones. Which meat put into a large pot and put it to 8 or 9 gallons of soft water. First make it boil, then put in 12 anchovies, an ounce of mace, a quarter of an ounce of cloves, an ounce of whole pepper, black and white together, 6 large onions peeled and cut in 2, a little bundle of thyme, sweet marjoram and winter savoury, the dry hard crust of a twopenny loaf. Stir it all together and cover it close. Lay a weight on the cover to keep it close down, and let it boil softly for 8 or 9 hours, then uncover it and stir it together. Cover it close again, and let it boil till it is a very rich good jelly, which you will know by taking a little out now and then and letting it cool. When you think it is a thick jelly, take it off, strain it through a coarse hair bag and press it hard. Then strain it through a hair sieve into a large earthen pan. When it is quite cold, take off the scum and fat, and take the fine jelly clear from the settlings at bottom, and then put the jelly into a large, deep, well-tinned stew pan. Set it over a stove with a slow fire. Keep stirring it often, and take great care it neither sticks to the pan or burns. When you find the jelly very stiff and thick, as it will be in lumps about the pan, take it out and put it into large deep china cups or well-glazed earthenware. Fill the pan 2/3 full of water, and when the water boils, set it in your cups. Be sure no water gets into the cups, and keep the water boiling softly all the time till you find the jelly is like a stiff glue. Take out the cups, and when they are cool, turn out the glue into a coarse new flannel. Let it lay 8 or 9 hours, keeping it in a dry, warm place, turning every 2 hours, and then put it into the sun till it is quite hard and dry. Put it into tin boxes with a piece of writing paper between each piece, and keep them in a dry place. When you use it, pour boiling water on it, and stir it all the time till it is melted. Season with salt to your palate. A piece as big as a large walnut will make a pint of water very rich, but as to that, you are to make it as good as you please. If for soup, fry a French roll and lay it in the middle of the dish, and when the glue is dissolved in the water, give it a boil and pour it into the dish. If you choose it for a change, you may boil either rice or barley, vermicelli, celery cut small, or truffles or morels. But let them be very tenderly boiled in the water before you stir in the glue, and then give it a boil altogether. You may, when you would have it very fine, add forcemeat balls, coxcombs, or a palate boiled very tender and cut into little bits. But it will be very rich and good without any of these ingredients. If for gravy, pour the boiling water onto what quantity you think proper, and when it is dissolved, add what ingredients you please, as in other sauces. This is only in the room of a rich, good gravy. You may make your sauce either weak or strong by adding more or less, or you may make it of veal or of mutton the same way. Rules to be observed in making soups or broths. First, take great care the pots or saucepans and covers be very clean and free from all grease and sand, and that they be well tinned, for fear of giving the broths and soups any brassy taste. If you have time to stew as softly as you can, it will both have a finer flavour and the meat will be tenderer. But then observe, when you make soups or broths for present use, if it is to be done softly, do not put much more water than you intend to have soup or broth, and if you have the convenience of an earthen pan or pipkin, set it on wood embers till it boils, then skim it, and put in your seasoning. Cover it close and set it on embers, so that it may do very softly for some time, and both the meat and broths will be delicious. You must observe in all broths and soups that one thing does not taste more than another, but that the taste be equal, and it has a fine agreeable relish, according to what you design it for. And you must be sure that all the greens and herbs you put in be cleaned, washed, and picked. End of section 16.